And MS Now political analyst Cornell Belcher. Jake is still with us. Jake, what happened?
Well, the House had said, Katie, Mike Johnson said about a month ago, more than a month ago, it was about a month ago, actually, that he was going to pass DHS funding in the coming days. He did not. It turned out that he was going to wait until a separate bill laying out the next step in funding ICE and CBP for 3 years was passed. That was passed last night. Then today, out of the leadership said they were going to pass it, the DHS funding bill. And then out of effectively nowhere, they put it on the floor. They asked for unanimous consent to pass it. They did not get it. And then they asked for a voice vote. They got it. And the DHS funding crisis, the shutdown ended after 75 days with no vote, very little fanfare, and it's all over, which is, stunning.
Why? Remind us, because so much has been happening. Why was DHS not getting funded and the Democrats were not voting for it? Have they now decided to vote for it because they've gotten a concession?
Well, the bill that they passed, Katie, includes funding for DHS except for ICE and CBP, which is really existing off of the money that they got in the big beautiful bill. For now, until by June 1st, the president wants a separate bill that funds ICE and CBP for 3 years to be on his desk and passed. So they split this up. The Senate passed this, several weeks ago to end the shutdown. The House has been sitting on it. Now the House has passed it. Now the next step is for them to do a reconciliation bill, a party line bill to fund ICE and CBP, which presumably only Republicans will be voting for.
And we'll see if any Republicans have any concerns about it. Thank you, Jake. I was clearly getting that confused.
Here for you.
I appreciate you straightening it out for me. There's a lot going on, a lot to juggle every day. The other big story that we wanted to talk about was the Voting Rights Act and the decision by the Supreme Court yesterday regarding the voting maps in Louisiana. Louisiana is now postponing its primaries in order to redraw the maps down there. Cornell, what's going to happen?
Well, first of all, great reporting, the way he puts that all together, and that dysfunction is amazing. So kudos to you. It's interesting, Katie, because in the aftermath of the devastating gutting of the Civil Rights Act that the Supreme Court handed down, Louisiana went about doing exactly what the Voting Rights Act was put in place to stop them from doing, right? So it's really interesting that the Supreme Court says, these things aren't needed anymore, and they're out of time. And the moment they do that, Louisiana, one of the states that was key in the rationale for having a Voting Rights Act, in fact, goes about doing exactly what the Voting Rights Act was trying to stop them from doing, and that is marginalizing the voices of people of color and really stripping away their voice and their political power. So that's what Louisiana is all about right now. And the thing is, Katie, at some point, the court aside, the voters of this country, like the mainstream American voters of this country, have to go, what's in that for me, right? Am I going to get lower health care? Am I going to get more affordable, prescription drugs because you're now gerrymandering safe seats for your incumbents? Because it hasn't led to any of that. At some point, Main Street white Americans need skin in this white supremacy game that they're playing with this gerrymandering, and they have to say also, this isn't working for me. Making these incumbents safer and less accountable hasn't lowered my prices. Hasn't given me better health insurance, hasn't given me cheaper pharmaceuticals. None of it seems to be working for the working people.
Put a pin in that for just 1 second, because I'm going to come back to it. Jake, let's talk more functionally, though. Is this going to change the balance of power in Congress? Or if red states start redistricting, as they're probably going to do, are blue states able to use this as well?
Yes to all the above. It's going to change the balance of power. Whether it does for this election cycle, we don't know. The case centered around, Katie, a seat in Louisiana that ran from New Orleans northwest to Baton Rouge that's held by a Democrat, and it was part of a last redraw of the Louisiana map. That the Louisiana governor, Jeff Landry, has already pushed off and is indicating he is going to draw a new map. The question is, can states do this in time for the 2026 election? And the answer to that is who knows. But then you get into a question, well, will California draw a 54-0 map? Will Illinois draw a 17-0 map? Will Maryland finally get the guts to wipe out their one Republican? Those are questions that need to be answered and will be answered in the coming years. That's number one.
I'm going to say a little bit. Okay, go ahead.
No, I would just say one more thing here. What they did to Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act from a practical basis is not a complete win for Republicans, because what Democrats can now do is take majority-minority districts, which have tended to be Democratic districts, and they could spread those Democratic voters among Republican districts in blue states and lower the Republicanness and the Republican voting tendencies of red districts. So, we're going to have to see how it works out. It's not clear to me, and there's going to be a flurry, Katie, of lawsuits.
This is all contingent or relies upon a premise that the system and voters are going to vote the same way as they've always voted.
Sure.
And I just want to inject a little bit of skepticism into all of this, because it was not so long ago, Cornell, 2008, 2012, 2015 even, that people were worried about the Republican Party ceasing to exist, that the Republican Party was going into the wilderness. McKay Coppins wrote a whole book about the wilderness, the Republican Party being done forever. They've got to rejigger the whole thing in order to survive for the future, that the Obama coalition was just so strong, and the changing demographics of the country were going to ensure Democratic wins going forward. That didn't happen. Things changed. And so I know we're all feeling like Republicans have a stranglehold over elections right now, and it seems like they have, with Donald Trump winning twice and them getting both houses of Congress. But just because it is that way right now doesn't mean it will always be that way.
Well, no, there's nothing permanent about American politics. American politics is a Category 5 hurricane that is trying to tear and erode everything you put into it away. So there's no permanent coalitions. And I'll do you one better than that, Katie. I remember back in 2004, when the Bush-Cheney folks were talking about a permanent Republican majority in the Congress. There's nothing permanent. However, this changing face of America that you see happening across our country, because, Katie, America's not going to get whiter. It just isn't. The browning of America, you do see a reaction to this. It is absolutely a backlash to this, and trying to lessen the voices and political power of people of color. And again, Katie, I will simply say to you, to your working class voter out there on Main Street, what is this gerrymandering getting done for you? How is it feeding your family? How is it making education better for you and your family? I can't alone fight these efforts. All of Americans have to stand up and say, this is not democracy, and this is not, in fact, in my best interest to gerrymander these seats so that more incumbents have safe seats.